This is Jeff Wardson from JeffCars.com. We're here with Todd Pollock. And Todd, what's your position with General Motors?
I am the Chief Engineer for the 2014 Buick Regal.
Okay, tell us a little bit about what's new for 2014.
So for 2014, for both the Regal and the Regal GS, we've got a bunch of new standard and optional content. So first off, the number one reason for purchase for the Buick Regal has been styling. So what we wanted to do was evolve that styling, not change it dramatically, since we know that's the number one reason for purchase. So we made some enhancements to the front end, new fascia, new grille, new headlamps, same thing on the rear with a new fascia, new deck lid, new lamps, new tail lamps, just really focused on making the vehicle look wider and more firmly planted. So that takes care of the exterior, really trying to polish it up a bit. And then on the interior, the focus is around integration of next-gen Buick IntelliLink and trying to make the center stack a bit more simple and a bit easier to use. So an 8-inch touchscreen is standard. Below that, we've got a simplified radio, set of radio buttons and knobs. We went from 17 to 7 to try to make it easier for the customer to use the infotainment system. Then below that, a dual zone climate control system is standard. In 2014, we've added capacitive touch to that. As we work our way to the left, a new cluster both for the Regal and the GS. The Regal gets a 4.2-inch color screen, and the Regal GS gets another big 8-inch screen there in the cluster. And then new steering wheels for both vehicles to house the buttons to control Buick IntelliLink. Now, going beyond that to the powertrain, we've got a new standard 2-liter engine. This engine, a 2-liter turbo engine rather. Now this engine is different than the 2-liter turbo from 2013. We've actually added 39 horsepower, which takes us from 220 to 259 horsepower. We've got 295 foot-pounds of torque. And the fuel economy has improved from 2013. It's now 21 miles per gallon city, 30 miles per gallon highway on the front-wheel drive. And that's a whopping 3 miles per gallon city improvement. So we both improved horsepower and improved fuel economy. I think the real story, though, is the torque curve. 90% of the available torque is there between 1,700 and 5,500 RPM. So all those numbers aside, what the customer's going to notice, if he knows nothing, he or she knows nothing else about the engine, is that there's torque on demand. The torque is there when you need it in normal driving conditions. Torque numbers can be confusing because when a max torque number is quoted, that doesn't really give an indication of the bandwidth associated with it. And we've got a really, really huge and wide bandwidth associated with this engine. What else is new for 2014 is all-wheel drive. So all-wheel drive is available both on the Regal and the GS. It provides both wet traction improvement as well as dry traction improvement in cornering conditions. It's an on-demand system, completely electronic. It happens to be a halodeck system. It's got a electronic limited slip rear differential, which allows us to transfer torque across the rear axle. And then in the GS vehicle, there's a mode that we call the interactive drive control, which integrates our computer controlled suspension system, which we call CDC, continuous damping control. Integrates power steering, or electric power steering rather, the all-wheel drive system, and the transmission. Brings it all together into a really driver-oriented system. There are 3 modes in interactive drive control. Touring, which is the do-nothing mode. That's what the driver will get when he or she sits in the car. But then from there, you can select 2 different drive modes. One is Sport. It'll stiffen up the suspension a bit. And all-wheel drive, if you have an all-wheel drive vehicle, it'll transfer more torque to the rear. And then the real fun vehicle to drive is the all-wheel drive GS in GS mode. And what that does is stiffen up the steering, stiffen up the suspension even more. It'll transfer that same torque to the rear in cornering conditions in a more aggressive manner. It gets through the shift points more quickly. And then lastly, it adds an algorithm that we call passive algorithm lift foot. And what that does is, if the customer is on the throttle very heavy and then lets off for some reason, maybe they've come up on a vehicle and they need to move out of the situation, instead of getting a shift, the vehicle maintains gear, allows the customer to drive out of that condition and then accelerate on their way. So we really think you add all those features together, the all-wheel drive, the new 2-liter turbo, interactive drive control, that this is really able to compete with the best in the segment for 2014.
So we have two different trim levels, the Regal and the Regal GS, that's correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and who are some of the competitors in the segment against the Regal?
So we see the top of the class certainly is the Audi A4. That's our aspirational vehicle. Again, I think with the content we've added, along with adaptive cruise control and a bunch of electronic safety content, that we are right on par with the A4. There's also the Lexus IS and the Acura TSX, I believe. I forget the letters on that Acura.
Yeah, that's correct. Acura TSX, you're correct.
Yep, those are the competitors. It's a small market, very competitive, very apt competitors, but we think we're able to compete now.
Okay, and the price range for the Regal starts at?
So the Regal starts in the mid-30s. It's like 30,600 for a front-wheel drive, and the Regal GS starts at about 37,000.
Okay, and as far as also you have a new technology package with the vehicle that includes?
Yep, so we have two safety packages. One is called Driver Confidence 1 that adds forward collision alert, lane departure warning, lane change alert, rear cross traffic alert, and it also comes with a standard rear camera, all Regals do. So a very useful package of everyday safety content, and then in addition to that, the customer can select our Driver Confidence 2 package, which adds adaptive cruise control, and that's full speed range adaptive cruise control. It can take you all the way down to 0.
Which is like a radar control.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's a radar control module that sits behind the Buick emblem in the front grille.
Okay. And what about tire sizes available?
So on the Regal, we have a 17-inch tire on the E-Assist model, an 18-inch on the Turbo, and then on the GS, the 19-inch tire is standard, and the customer can option up to a 20-inch summer-rated performance tire.
Okay, if you want to find out more information about the vehicle, visit jeffcars.com and tab on the new car pricing guide, and you can find out all the available features on the vehicle. Thanks a lot, Todd.
Thank you.